Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight. There were some pretty significant injuries in the Broncos' loss to the Titans. Benjamin, let's get into that a little bit here. And we'll start with A.J. Bouye. Listen, you lose this game. That's tough. But you lose this game without your number one corner, without your number one pass rusher, without your number one wide receiver, without your at least 1B running back. We'll get to Phillip Lindsay here in just a little bit. I think a little bit of context does need to – no excuses, because in the end, this is the NFL, and everybody's going to look at it and say, oh, you're 0-1. But I think some relative context matters.
Yeah, I think it does. This is brutal for the Broncos in terms of these guys going down. I mean, man, they've been snake bit this year. It's almost like we rebranded as the Chargers or something. But it's it's tough. But there are some decent things that can come out of that. You get some of these younger guys some extra reps. I thought Essang Bassey and Michael Ojemudia looked pretty good. Credit to you for being the guy who was all over both those guys all off season. I thought they both looked pretty good. In fact, Ojemudia would have had an interception if it hadn't been negated by a letter of the law, but kind of ticky-tacky foul against Alexander Johnson for pushing a guy out of bounds. I mean, yeah, he did it, but it was kind of. I mean, you see that stuff every play. So I thought they played pretty well for rookies, and you had a chance to get them some reps. You had a chance to get some down roster guys some reps. Tyreek Cleveland got out there at the wide receiver position, might not have gotten a couple of reps otherwise. So I think that's the positive takeaway. The negatives is, man, we are perilously thin all of a sudden.
Okay, so A.J. Bouye, what do you understand about his injury, and what do you understand about what they might do here?
Well, we're waiting for more information on that, but the type of injury that it is usually a 3 to 4 week kind of injury. AJ's a warrior, might try to play through it. We'll see, but usually, like I said, that's a 3 to 4 week kind of injury and can linger. So, we'll see. Phil Lindsay, we talked about that a little bit. Turf toe, those are the worst. Those will stay with you all season. That's one that's going to take some monitoring, and if I'm the Broncos, I might bring up Bellamy and give Lindsay 3 or 4 weeks off, just to try to get that thing as healthy as you can for a stretch run, and then you can kind of reevaluate. Is this worth bringing Lindsay back, or do we want to get him all the way healthy and then look at it next year? So I think the Broncos have some decisions to make in the next couple of weeks. I think the next 4 or 5 games really kind of determine which way this season's going to go. And after that, you're kind of evaluating, okay, do we want to trot these guys out here, or do we want to get the rookies a bunch of run, because next year we feel like is where our window starts.
And I know the Broncos fans don't want to hear that necessarily, because they've been waiting for a team to compete and contend for a little while. But it's something we've been saying quite often on the radio show for a while now. It's not, and I'm not saying this after a loss. I'm saying this, I would say this either way.
We've been saying it for months.
But we've been saying that the ramp up to 2021 is in part the 2020 season. Now, you can be one of those teams that's a year ahead. Happens all the time. Mm-hmm. The Broncos are still in range of that, even at 0-1, and the rest of the division won this weekend. But the reality does set in eventually if you do have a bunch of injuries stack up against you, and it is a young offense that's going to make young offense mistakes. Eventually, there has to be some reality check time.
Yeah, and so I think you need to do what's best for your team overall. You don't want to sit there and throw away a season. Nobody's going to do that. Players aren't out there sacrificing their bodies thinking, you know what, next year.
Right, it's not how the NFL's built anyways.
Right, it's just not. And you could look no further than, for instance, Jacksonville or Carolina, 2 teams that everybody said was tanking, came out this weekend and played hard. Now, Carolina barely lost. Jacksonville actually pulled out a win. But, it's players and coaches aren't doing that, because if you're dumping games like that, you're dumping games for the guy who's going to take your job. So I don't think the Broncos are going to do that, but I think there are, some opportunities. Devontae Bosby might get called back up from the practice squad to fill in for Bouye. You got Tolliver there as well as a guy who they really like and would like to get some more out of him. So Isaiah Irving is probably going to get in the rotation here very soon, if not today. So it's, there are guys that are going to come in. I don't see them going out and spending a bunch of money on veteran guys to bring in. And there's a reason the guys that are veterans that are available right now are available. So
certainly, and I think for the Broncos too, they've found diamonds in the rough in the past. Like, and again, I'm not trying to be super sunshine and rainbows here, but Shaq Barrett is an example of a guy that was an undrafted player. Phillip Lindsay, Chris Harris, C.J. Anderson,
Alexander Johnson,
who balled out even in a loss. He balled out, and so. What I am excited about more so is seeing some of these guys and seeing how they can perform. And it was very telling in that game that when A.J. Bouye goes down, they lean on Michael Ojemudia, who is already in there as the third guy. Mm-hmm. Essang Bassey is the next guy up. Devontae Harris didn't see the field. Yeah. And there's nothing against Devontae Harris or Duke Dawson. It's just that's the direction they decided to go, and maybe that proves valuable in the long run.
Good. And you saw Ryan Tannehill look at that and try to pick on that a little bit, and I thought they held their own pretty well. I don't want to sit here and paint a rosy picture. There are some definite mistakes in that game the Broncos need to correct, but I thought there are things to be optimistic about. What I don't want to see is the sky is falling, Judy's a bust, fire Fangio. you know you guys know what I'm talking about. Hot take TV and radio guy. You just change the channel on those guys.
We'll hear it. I guarantee we'll hear it. In fact, I want to say that I already heard it once. But to that point, what you want to see, okay, first of all, they got to score more points, but you want to see a competitive team. Every single game, you want to see the Broncos, they are in it. It's not too far removed from a couple of years ago when they were getting blown out in every single game, and you knew once they got down by 2 scores, they were done. They were cooked. I don't think this team is going to be like that.
Yeah, despite the 14 total points, I have confidence that this team can score points. The reasons that they didn't seemed like coincidental type things. You don't get a 4th and 1. Now, running the shovel pass I thought was goofy, but you didn't get a 4th and 1 at the goal line, so you missed 7 points there. You barely overthrew Nick Vannett, on a play action. You missed 7 points there. The drops from Jerry Jeudy that would have extended drives and put you probably in field goal range on each one of those, if not more. So you missed 3-6 points there. I believe that this team can score it. I believe they are on the cusp of being a very good offense. They just have some timing things they need to work out. No preseason, being young, first year in this offense, really kind of hamstrung them in this game.
Yeah, it certainly seems like a little bit of a learning curve kind of moment. But as I mentioned, the rest of the division isn't going to wait for you. The rest of the NFL isn't going to wait for you. And I don't think that just organizationally that's how the Broncos operate anyways.
Yeah, and I don't think you should expect good things. You have to go out there and practice and make good things happen. But looking at this team, the sky isn't falling. The world hasn't come to an end. This team is going to be competitive this season. Take a deep breath. We're going to be fine.
Benjamin Allbright, the voice of reason. I love that. It has a nice ring to it, if you ask me, but, nobody ever does.
Beats the other nickname.
That's right.